Welcome back to Business Math B. This is Miss Lee Russell, and today we're going to talk about break-even points. In life in general, with your normal expenses and in your business, you'll have your income, and in business we call that your profit. You'll also, or your income, or your gross income, and you have your expenses or your net losses. And you want to make sure that your income exceeds your expenses. In other words, so your payments aren't more than what your income is. When your income equals your expenses, this is what we call breaking even. The definition of a break-even point is the point at which the income from a sale of a product or service equals the invested cost, and it results in neither profit or loss. So we're going to go over an example of this. This is in your project 5. It's on your first page and it's line 3. If you want to turn to that now. Okay, the break-even point, you need to know your total fixed cost first, right? And you're going to divide it by selling price per unit minus variable cost per unit. Okay, so let's think about this for a minute. You know what you're selling your product for. You know how much it costs. So you subtract those two. So you see how much you've actually made, right? So then you know what profit you've made off of that one sale. And then you take those and you take the total fixed cost and you divide it by that amount. Obviously, if it equals 1, then you're going to break even. The example we have on line 3, the total fixed costs are $85,000. And if you look, the selling price, which is to the left, which is $11.95, and you subtract to the right the variable cost, those two subtracted are $8.95, and when you divide that, $94.97 is the break-even point. Okay, what that actually means is that's how many of those products you have to sell to break even with your financial costs. You've got to sell that many of them to cover the $85,000. So 9,497 decks must be sold in order to break even. And any decks over this amount will be your profit. Okay, we're going to do another example on this same page. Project 5, it's also page 1. We're going to look at the second line. Okay. Now, in this one, we're actually looking at fixed cost per deck. So we're going to use some logic here. We know the total fixed cost for all of them, and we know the number of sales. So we want to use those two numbers to calculate what we think our fixed cost per deck is. And you think of what you would do for that? Any ideas? So you're going to want to take your total fixed cost, and it's going to equal your sales times your fixed cost per each deck. And we're just going to plug in the numbers that we already have. So we've got $85,000 for the total fixed costs. We've got $12,000 for the sales. and we don't know what the fixed cost per deck is. So when we plug those in and solve them like an algebra problem, divide both sides by 12,000, we end up with $7.08. And that is going to be the fixed cost per deck. Okay? Now this problem reminds me again of how the typical math class and the typical math problems that most people have had up to this point have been pre-algebra, algebra, algebra 1, algebra 2. And those classes, the concepts are taught with pretty much numeric and variables. So they give you one line, and then they teach you how to do steps 1, 2, and 3 to solve. Okay? Business math, again, is a little bit more holistic and logical. Okay? There's not always a set way to do it. So what you're looking at is you're looking at what information is already given to us to figure out how you can solve for a specific answer. And we could see in the chart that they gave us the total fixed costs, and we could see they gave us the sales. So it's like, how could we figure this out? Okay, so a little more logic as far as trying to decide which formula to use or what formula to develop. Okay, so it's normal when you first read these to not know exactly what you're doing. That's pretty normal. That's just part of the process. I am working on, I've worked very hard to find some really good video clips to utilize. They're all 3 to 7 minutes long, but they're all really interesting speakers, either well known or just very well presented. Some of them are college students, high school students presenting them. Some of them are people from other countries with a little bit different perspective, and some of them are cartoons or songs. So I am hoping at some point I'm going to be able to present these live in my presentations. But for now, what you'll have to do is cut and paste the links that are listed. So these are the links that I found on Breakeven Points. There's a really good one. It's a cartoon, and it's about a farmer and a businessman that meet. And they don't understand each other's perspectives. And the businessman's trying to understand his business, and the farmer is trying to understand why the businessman needs to know this. The farmer, all he wants to know is how many apples does he need to grow. It's really good. That's one of those I remember. So be sure and take a look at some of those. They'll really help you understand the concept that we're studying. If you are watching this presentation live, I'll give you a poll at the end of the presentation, and this will count as your participation. If you're watching this as a recorded link, don't forget the 5 questions right here at the end of every presentation. You will need to download these, type in the answers, and email them to me. You can download these in the same location that you found the presentation links. It's at the bottom of the page. It's a red link. When you click on it, the page opens, and you need to go to the top under File and choose Download, and then you'll be able to have it on your desktop to type on. Okay? I hope that these presentations are helpful to you. I want you to understand the concepts. I understand we're covering a lot quickly, so you may not, be an expert and be able to do all the formulas that we've covered in the class so far, because we've covered so many different ones. But I want you to understand what we're studying and what it's about. So if you do go into business in the future, you'll have some background, a little history with hearing this before. If you do go into a business in the future, you will definitely want to know what your break-even point is, because you'll be investing money up front. Yeah, you'll know what you bought the one product for, and you know what your selling price is. You'll know that. So you'll know that you're selling it for more than what you bought it for. But you won't know exactly how much you need to cover your other expenses. So it's very important that you understand the concept of break-even point with your business. Okay? This concludes the presentation today for Business Math B, Break-Even Points. This is Miss Lee Russell. I hope you have a wonderful day.